Welcome to another episode of Humans for Humanity. Some people carry wounds like warnings. Others carry them like wisdom. This is Humans for Humanity, not just a podcast or reckoning ground for the ones who bled quietly while building a future no one thought they'd survive. A compass for those who mothered dreams that haven't arrived yet. And today we're joined by a woman who didn't just endure the storm, she planted something inside of it. She walked through betrayal, loss, and the quiet ache of not yet, and still chose to hope louder than the silence. This is the reckoning of the relentless mother. Sarah Fabrizio is more than a mom. She is a woman rewriting the story of IVF, not as sterile science, but as sacred strength. Her kitchen once held syringes instead of spoons, and her mornings began with bruises instead of coffee. But beneath it all lived a quiet defiance. I will not stop until love has a name. Before this chapter, she spent years in a relationship that dimmed her light. Manipulation, cheating, the kind of heartbreak that makes you forget who you are. But she didn't stay broken. She is healing, not healed, whole, not untouched. She speaks for the women who stay soft without staying silent, who hold joy in one hand and grief in the other, who dare to believe again even when the world has given them every reason not to. This episode is for the ones who buried a version of themselves to grow something truer. Let's begin. Humans for Humanity is more than a podcast. It's a living experiment, a spiritual archive, a collective echo of what it means to walk the obstacle course of embodiment and come out more whole than we began. Each episode is guided by spirit and shaped by tarot. I don't write questions in advance. I pull cards and follow the energy. Because I believe the soul already knows what wants to be spoken. It just needs permission to speak. Behind this project is something bigger. I channeled a map called the Blueprint. It's my theory of consciousness. It says that we don't just show up on Earth. We drop in with purpose. And as we move through life, we traverse an invisible structure made of energetic gateways, each linked to a chakra, each initiating us into a deeper version of truth, power, and love. Every human story holds clues. When someone speaks about betrayal, grief, purpose, survival, or awakening, I listen for the frequency underneath of the facts. The Blueprint helps me track where their soul is in the arc of return, what chakra they're wrestling with, what lesson they came here to embody. This podcast helps me prove the Blueprint by living it in real time, by letting people tell the truth of what they've been through and noticing the patterns that emerge. Because when we zoom out, we see your story isn't separate from mine. And our pain isn't random, it's part of the passage. Humans for Humanity is the collective field where those pieces come together. Where what once broke us becomes what makes us medicine. It's a sacred conversation between one voice and the many. One soul and the system that we're all moving through. And if we keep listening, we just might remember why we came. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here today. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So for anyone who does not know, which is probably most people at this point, Sarah is my best friend from high school and my hometown. So this is going to go in all different kinds, I'm sure. We've been reminiscing.
Oh my gosh.
So let's get started here. Okay, so it's interesting because one of the main topics that we knew we were going to be discussing was IVF. So when hope was taken away, how did you find a way to dig deep to say, no, I'm not giving up on this?
So that actually happened very early into our new phase of marriage. We knew that we wanted kids pretty quickly after we had gotten married. And We were trying but not trying right before our wedding day, which was, yes, May 27th. So I would say we were like trying without trying around April. And when I started tracking my fertility, I was realizing like something is not right. I know my body, something isn't right. So we gave it the summer, continued to try. And by August, we were like, all right, let's go see a doctor. So once August hit, we had our consultation. It got real. They did a lot of testing on us, and they were basically like, listen, you have one option here. We need to pursue IVF. So that is immediately when you hear that, it's the chances of IVF working is a 50-50 chance. So right then and there, it hits you in the heart. So there was a lot of research, a lot of talking to other individuals that I knew went through it. So my only option was to have hope at that point, because if I didn't, I would not have been able to navigate that without it. Even if I had the slightest inkling in my mind, what if it doesn't work? I know me. Everything would have went right down the drain. So I really had no choice but to have it. Even if I faked it some days, which I did, I had to convince myself, like, no, I'm okay. I'll be okay. I got this. But that was rough. That was rough to hold on to that. And also for my husband. I'm sure when we got married, he wasn't like, I can't wait to do IVF in the future. So having that hope for the both of us was tenfold.
And I feel like that shows you recognize the power of your mind and you were like, this is either
Yeah.
me or break me.
Yeah.
In which ways did you and your husband help to like balance out the fears and keep each other on track mentally?
So, regardless of IVF, he's always been that person for me. I have always been up here my entire life, and everything is like chaos, and I react very quickly and I blow things out of proportion. And I can say that about myself because I have learned that about myself over the years. Whereas he has always been like my voice of reasoning. He's been my sounding board. He brings me from here to here. And that is a quality that I've always admired about him. So he was a great support system throughout my entire, like from day one. He was never even negative about it. He was quite literally my IVF nurse. He shot me up every single day with needles. He was at every appointment. Like he was just there. He definitely grounded me. And I don't know if I could have done that with any other male figure that I've had in my life, like through relationships or even like friends. Like I don't see myself being able to have gone through that journey with anybody besides him. I don't think I would have made it.
And that shows how it's so important to not just choose any partner, but it's important
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're going to go through. You didn't say, okay, marry someone I'll do IVF with.
They do say marry your future children's father. And that is a quality I saw right away with him. It's, oh, I want to have kids with this man. I've already went down that road before. Did I make the best choices? No, I didn't in my early adulthood. But I knew that this time around in my 30s, I was going to marry somebody that I saw myself having children with.
Let's go into the topic of what the past has taught you. In what ways did your past relationships falling apart or the way in which they fell apart, in which way did that make you prepared to have this hardest part of the mother journey now?
I knew what I didn't want anymore. I knew what I wasn't going to stand for and that I wasn't going to tolerate, and that what I wasn't going to bring my oldest son in with me. Because at the end of the day, he was along for the ride. He saw me through some pretty crappy relationships. And I knew that as he was getting older, I was going to be the one that was setting the example for him. He was going to see either what he wanted in his future relationships or what he didn't want. And I knew I didn't want to be the example of my mom did this and I want to be nothing like her. So it was really like that mindset of I have somebody watching me. I have somebody watching my every single move and I can't mess this up. I have one shot at this. So I knew that once I ended my previous relationship before my husband, and I had to do some serious soul searching on what was acceptable and what was not in a relationship.
What fear did you have to take away in order to say, you know what, if it's not for me, I'm willing to detach no matter how painful it is, no matter how much my mind tries to convince me to stay in a comfort zone?
So I think that's exactly what it is. I've always had a fear of being uncomfortable. So when I am in a relationship for 7.5 years, I was comfortable with chaos. That's all I knew was like a fight or flight mode in absolute chaos a majority of the time. Is that to say the whole time? No, of course there were good moments, but a lot of the bad kind of outweighed that. So I had to be comfortable also in my own skin, going like knowing even before I had started dating my husband, like I knew I had to be comfortable with myself because it was very clear that I wasn't. I had a lot of insecurities. I I blamed myself for a lot of the problems. And looking back now through a different lens, I'm like, I wasn't always the problem. Sometimes was I sure, but I definitely had to be comfortable in my own skin. And I wasn't for a majority of my 20s and a majority of my teenage years. I could never find that for myself. And I think that was a lot of the patterns repeating itself in some of my relationships too. And I knew I could not bring it over.
What shadow did you have to face to be present enough in your body to learn how to be comfortable there?
I think that was a lot of different things. One of them, I don't know if I want to use the word self-worth, but maybe I do. I think I struggled with that, and I'm not sure like where that came from. And I think that kind of goes back to the inner child, where I wish I dug a little bit deeper as I got older. Like, why did I never feel worthiness? Why did I never have confidence in myself? Why didn't I, who took that away from me? So I think if I dug a little bit deeper, I could have figured that out. But that was like a self discovery that I had of that's why I wasn't comfortable. I just, I had this like doubt always in the back of my mind that was telling me, like finger pointing. And I was like, oh, you're right. And I believed it. I believed what these voices were telling me essentially. And I believed it for a long time. And I think that that kind of paved the way for how a lot of my relationships had ended up in the past.
And don't realize that we manifest opportunities to heal what we're not facing. Beauty formed through repeated breaking. Interesting. So the devil and an angel. So talk about internal dialogue and the way you had to shift your own internal dialogue to be like, okay, no, I'm not going to listen to that voice. That one's not working for me.
Yeah, I had to stop with the negative talk because that was something that I was very famous for as well. And it was almost like self-deflecting and self-sabotaging. I think are two very big things that I had to push very far down in order to move forward. Because again, I knew somebody was watching me. When I say somebody, I mean how old was Jordan? I think he was 10 years old at the time. I knew at that moment, if I continued down the path that I was, path meaning the self-talk, the belittling myself to my own self, I knew I was just never going to break free of that. And I would bring it into any other relationship that came my way. It didn't even have to be a romantic relationship. It could have even been a platonic friendship. I knew that if I didn't knock that off, if the buck didn't stop there, I would continue to self-sabotage.
What would you say to someone who doesn't realize the impact that, oh, I'm just being a little mean to myself? What if they don't realize the ripple effect of that? What would you say to them?
I would say, how would you tell your daughter or your son, like, what if your future, like, they don't even have to be alive yet. What if your future daughter or son were hearing the things that you were saying to yourself, but to them? What if they were hearing it? How would you feel as a parent or even your younger self? I'm going to be 34. Like, I couldn't imagine sitting here in front of my 8-year-old self and hearing how I'm talking to myself. That's enough to break anybody. But it's just like that thought process of imagine somebody else was hearing this, the way that you spoke to yourself. That would break me. I'm sure it would break you too if you've said things to yourself that in your 30s that maybe you said it to your 10-year-old self. It would kill you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really good.
So I think I say this all the time. I hated my 20s. I was confused. In that entire decade, I just had no idea what I wanted. And I think I spent a decade looking through rose-colored glasses. And then once I took them off and saw the bigger picture, it was like, oh, I didn't need that. I shouldn't have endured that. But then on the flip side, I think to myself, if I didn't go through every single thing that I went through, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now. My life could have went a completely different way. So it's hard because I think sometimes I have this regretful feeling on one side, but then on the other side, it's if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't be living this life that I'm living right now. And I love the life. This is the life that I dreamed of living since I was a little kid. And now I can do it where I wasn't too hopeful a few years back that I would even get to this point.
What do you say to someone who needs the energy of, yeah, fear, feel the fear, but do it anyway?
I would say live in it. You can live in it for a few minutes, or you can have your pity party. You can feel bad for yourself for feeling this way, but it has to be temporary. You cannot let yourself stay stuck in that, or else you are just going to be on this carousel of negative talk, no self-worth. You have to jump off the ride. You can only give yourself a few minutes, a few days, a few hours, what have you. But once that time is up, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. What has the lesson of patience taught you the most? Of, I don't know when things are going to go my way. I'm hopeful they will, but I don't have any guarantee.
Oh my God, I've never had patience. You can ask my mom. I haven't had an ounce of patience my entire life. And it's insane because you need nothing but patience when going through something like IVF. It was literally like, hurry up, wait, hurry up, wait. So it would be have these procedures, but now you have to wait. Go take this medication, but now you have to wait. So I have a side of patients that I didn't even know was possible anymore or ever because of what I had gone through. I never thought that when I wanted to have more children that I would be waiting. When did I start? August of 23. I had my son like a year and a half. I had to wait a year and a half to physically bring a baby home. And who thinks when you first start trying, you're like, oh, 9 months. I'll have a baby in no time. There was just a lot of patience that had to be learned. And that was a hard pill to swallow for me. I'm very instant gratification. I need it now. If I have my mind on something, I want it immediately.
So let's talk about Jordan, then your first. There was a moment that you, or a time period where you realized that, okay, this is going to fall on me. Like I need to completely restructure everything now going forward. Talk about that process.
So that immediately brings me to when I had to move him, literally restructure our entire life because I was in a relationship that no longer served me. And as a mom, that kills you because if you are child free, you can pack up your bags, hit the road, and say, see you later. When you have a kid that's involved in that, especially a kid that is not biologically related to that person, you need to play puzzle pieces of how am I not going to mess this kid up mentally and make it a smooth transition. It was changing his school, changing where we lived temporarily to get us out of the situation that we were currently in. So that was hard because he was around 8 to 9 years old. So he was at that age where he was old enough to internalize like something isn't right and my mom's in panic mode. And then I have to pick up my life and leave my friends and my school. So that was hard. That was a really hard time as a parent. I knew that I had to do it in the long run for myself and him. But in the moment, that was hard on me. I felt terrible. Who wants to pick up their kid and move them around because his mom failed in a relationship? That's hard.
So that's interesting that you said failed in a relationship because I feel like it's so many people look at it like that. But let's talk about how you eventually had to reframe it in order to forgive yourself in a way. Okay, yes, this was not where I needed to be, but I need to shape it in a way that allows me to move forward with self-forgiveness.
Yeah, I think the self-forgiveness is one of the last things that I gave myself. Like once I was settled, I finally gave myself that. But I also think it was hard for me because I also never really received apologies from the other party. So I think that was hard too because I wasn't receiving apologies. I was still thinking in my head, this was all my fault. Then if I didn't get an apology, it had to be because of me. But again, it was like taking off those rose colored glasses and like really looking outward and being like, I didn't deserve that. Jordan didn't deserve that. But again, I needed those times in my life to get me to where I am now. It took a couple of years. It took a couple of years, and especially to move forward and still not get those apologies. Like I might have gotten like a my bad or sorry, but I never got like a true full blown apology that I think that I deserved. And I think that was pretty tough. But once I learned to live without that, I was able to move past it myself.
A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay, so what would you say then to the people? Okay, I feel these things, but there's not going to be a resolution because I can't anticipate an apology. How do I find another path forward? How do you get there?
So I think that was also tough for me because I probably should have went to therapy if I'm being honest with you to like really truly internalize all of that. And I didn't. That's a regret that I have. I tell everybody, I preach to everybody, we all need therapy. Everyone needs a therapist. So I think I'm still even like in the process of internalizing like the intellectual part of that. Like I'm not there yet. There are still things that come up in my head that will bring myself back to a darker spot. And I don't want to be there anymore. And I don't know if I ever will be. At least that's what I'm thinking right now. I don't know if I'll ever be there. I would like to be, but I don't have the answer for that yet. But I hope I do one day.
You can find self-forgiveness, but there's still that piece that our brain, in order to survive, it wants answers. There's a
Yeah.
there, and I need to know what needs to go there.
Yeah. It's like something that will literally keep you up at night.
Talk about how your life now looks so different than what you once anticipated, but you couldn't even know that you wanted this back then. Like you couldn't even dream for this then. You didn't realize it was attainable almost.
No, that's exactly what it was. I literally did not know that this was obtainable. And what I did was just convince myself that was the end all be all. Like, I just have to be okay with whatever direction that my life is going in because it can't get any better than this. There's no way. That's what I'm telling myself. There's just no way. Like, I just have to suck it up and I have to deal with it. And I think a lot of that came from the fact that I was not very open. And looking back now, I regret it, but I was not very open with my family or friends of the situation that I was in because if I'm being honest, I didn't want anybody to tell me to leave. I didn't want advice, or I should say to me, it was unsolicited advice. I didn't want that because I was just so in my head that this is end game for me. This is where I'm going to end up. So I don't want friends or family to have negative thoughts about it. So I stayed with that alone. And I think that was one of the hardest things that I did to myself was living in that and sitting in that for years, feeling isolated.
That is a very common thing. So let's take it in that direction. How did you come to recognize, okay, me thinking these things, me trying to hide how I'm really feeling is actually self-betrayal?
I think when I realized that it was self betrayal was when people started vocalizing to me that they saw a change in myself. And I had to play it off. I had no idea what you're talking about. But another kind of flip side to that is when I was getting to the age of marriage, us as a whole, where like marriage and families were starting, and I saw people moving. And granted, nobody's life is the same. Everybody works on different time periods. But when I saw the pattern, okay, we're getting to this age where you're getting engaged, you're getting married, you're starting your family. When I saw people moving in that direction and I was just plateauing, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I staying? Why am I choosing to stay stuck here? I can leave, but I wouldn't. I physically could not leave. And that's what I knew that it was self-betrayal. I was not being held against my will. I was an adult. I could have left whenever I wanted and I couldn't. I physically could not do it.
How do you feel like you learning to hold space for your own emotions allowed you to find a partner who will also hold space for your emotions?
I didn't love myself. We can call a spade a spade. I did not love myself. And I needed to do that in order for somebody else to love me properly. Because when my relationship with my husband, it was like a breath of fresh air because it was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to feel like. Now, granted, every relationship has its problems, but love isn't supposed to be hard. And it was hard for a very long time. So when I allowed myself to love myself, without even knowing it, I attracted somebody who was capable of giving and showing the same love back to me. And I never had that before. I never had that reciprocated feeling. So that was definitely on me because, again, I had to put everything to the side and start working on myself in order to attract the person that was meant for me.
So you saw manifestation in real time then.
Yeah,
Talk about in which ways it was difficult to accept the love that you had then manifested into your life.
that was hard. And that is so on point for me because it was like, wait, do I deserve this? What makes me worthy of this man who is giving me this love willingly and I don't have to ask for it. I don't have to fight for it. I don't have to pick a fight for him to or pick a fight with him to get this like quick love and attention and like love bombing for a few days because that's what I used to do. I used to intentionally pick fights to sabotage my relationship so I could get an ounce of attention. I didn't have to do that anymore. I wasn't in fight or flight mode anymore with my relationship. So that was definitely something I had to get used to. Just a nice person. And we don't ask for much as women. We just want a nice person to give us what we're giving to them. And luckily I found that, but that's also not the case for everybody.
Talk about in the waiting period. What would you say to someone who wants that, but it's not manifesting yet? What advice would you give?
I, so I received a lot of different advice from individuals myself in that waiting period. And I think what I would say, just living through that, is don't compare yourself because that's what I was doing. I found myself comparing myself to other women who maybe were able to start treatment options for IVF sooner than I was. So it was like a lot of discouragement because we had our first consultation in August of 23. I wasn't able to start my injections until February of 24, whereas some women can walk into a clinic and they can start next month. But because I needed surgeries and I needed special hormones, like my time was just a little bit more delayed. So don't compare yourself because I did that at first. And that was a hard pill to swallow because I'm like, why is this not happening yet? Why do I have to keep waiting another month when Susie down the street is already pregnant? So that's something that I wish I could go back and tell my own self, let alone anybody else.
Yeah. What purpose did you attach yourself to pull yourself out of that season and into a better one?
I think I'm going to attach it to just my motherhood aspect, just holding on to that. I'm already a mom, right? So somebody who maybe isn't a mom would be like, oh, you already have one. You already have a kid. So who cares if this doesn't work out for you? At least you have Jordan. And I'm holding on to that hope and purpose because I want Jordan to have siblings to grow up with. I want to have the chance to do motherhood again in a healthy relationship, in a healthy household. And I want that for me because I was pregnant at 18. I had a baby at 19. So my life was already rooted up from me. Like left college, like life was very different than you too. You were younger as well. And life looked different for other 18 and 19-year-olds. So I wanted that chance of motherhood in a clear headspace. So I held on to that. That's what I had to grasp onto to keep going there.
Let's talk about Jordan because you've grown up with him essentially,
Literally.
grown up together. With all the chaos and all of the hustle and bustle, how did you learn how to slow down and enjoy the moments together?
So that's also something like looking back now, I almost wish I slowed down more with him. I because I see myself now with a 4 month old and just like a prime example of rocking him to sleep, my youngest, rocking him to sleep every night. I didn't get that with Jordan all the time because I was working nights. I had Jordan all day. My mom had Jordan all night because I was either bartending, I was serving, I worked night shifts. So I almost wish that I slowed down a little bit in that aspect. As he's older now, I finally got to that point with him, like being able to fully enjoy him the way that I wish I could have with his now younger brother. I feel like I have that second chance now that our life is normal, and I say that with very big air quotations. I definitely wish I could have enjoyed him the way that I am right now with a newborn.
What would you say about the work that you've done to love yourself being for him?
I think I have to teach him that. Even I have to teach him that now. Like he he knows he knows like the very surface level of what I've had to go through, but he knows that I went through some crap in my lifetime to get to where him and I are today. He sees the work that has been put in to all of that. And he, without going like too much into detail, he knows what directions not to take. He knows what he doesn't want to grow up into a young adult to be because he has seen other examples of people. Him and I have a very open relationship in that aspect where he's comfortable talking to me about things. I'm comfortable talking to him about things. So he has a pretty good head on his shoulders when it comes to that. I don't have to tell him too much. He's seen enough to know I don't want to go down. I don't want to do repeated patterns. Almost a generational, I don't want to say curse, but he's breaking generational habits, trauma, all of the above.
Yeah. The work that you've done on yourself allows him to be the cycle breaker. How did the battles you faced in which you didn't want to be in them, but you came out better on the other side? Talk about that process.
Yeah, they quite literally made me a better person. I had to claw my way out of some really terrible situations. And it was almost like my soul was telling me, like, not yet, go again. Not yet. One more time. Okay, just kidding. One more time. We're going to put you through the ringer. And that's how I felt like my life was on repeat for years. And then again, every little thing that I did, every move that I made just shaped me into where I am today and gifted me the life that I have today. But I definitely had to claw my way out of it to get there. It was not easy.
So let's talk about what's one cord with your past self you had to cut to be able to make it to where you are now.
Lack of confidence, doubting myself, negative talk. It's everything that we've talked about before. I had to cut a lot of cords. There wasn't just one. There was a lot of things that I needed to change in my life if I wanted to see different results. What is that saying? Repeating the same thing over and over again is insanity and like expecting different outcomes.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. I just kept doing it. I was like, oh, maybe next month it'll be better. It's no, nothing's changing. You keep doing the same thing. You just keep repeating yourself. And that's what I was doing.
So what advice would you give to people then when it comes to that quote, doing the same thing over and expecting different results? What would you say to people who don't know what to do and you're just like, do anything, create some kind of change? You have to break the cycle.
Yeah, I think I would tell people exactly what I didn't do. You have to be vulnerable. You have to let fear in because I blocked fear. I was so afraid of fear. I was never able to jump into it and embrace that. And it's something that I've always admired about other people and something that I just lacked in. I think we all know what our strengths and weaknesses are. And that was definitely one of my weaknesses. So it would sound a little bit, what's the word I'm trying to use? Hypocritical of me because I would be telling people something that I wasn't capable of doing, but it is letting that wall down. I've had a wall up my entire life. You got to let the wall down or you're going to get nowhere.
Let's talk about that wall. What's one thing that you didn't realize was a shadow or was a blockage until those tower moments, until after the trauma? And you're like, oh, I was blocking myself without realizing it. Now I realize it.
Everything, it was my attitude. A big thing was my attitude, like my perception of life. And I did that to myself. Like I told myself it's not going to get any better than this. So just deal with it, suck it up. And again, that's why I didn't tell my family or friends because I didn't want them to make decisions for me. I didn't want them to tell me to leave something that wasn't serving me. Like I chose to do that. I literally blocked myself from any other type of life because again, that's what I thought that I deserved at that time. I didn't think it was going to get any better than that.
What's one way in which you feel like young childhood Sarah would relate to your children now? Little Sarah and your kids in a room, what would that scene look like almost?
That really makes me emotional thinking about that because there's so many like different parts of my childhood that were so different. Like I talked to my family about this and might be going on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm feeling like called to bring this up.
Please do.
I struggled when I was younger with male figures. So when I say struggle, I mean that in a couple of different ways. So my parents got divorced when I was 12. My aunt's now ex-husband, he was my favorite uncle. I grew up knowing him since I think I was like 5 or 6. And there was infidelity in that relationship. He had cheated on my aunt. That broke me because when my parents got divorced, he was that guy for me. We spent weekends there. He was just that father figure for me. So when they got divorced, that's another man that let me down, for lack of better words. And then right after we found out about the infidelity, my grandfather had passed away from cancer. So it was like I had 3 men in my life that I was just like, now what? At the time, I didn't want a relationship with my dad. No, none of us were talking to my uncle, and my grandfather's gone. So it's kids need that father figure. Kids need that mom and dad in their life. I don't care what anybody says. They need that. So I think that kind of started like where like that low self-esteem, that low confidence, like all of that kind of stemmed from. So going back to my kids being in a room with my younger self, just telling them like, you are going to have that guy in your life one day that I wish that I had. And I found that in my husband because that's all that I ever wanted growing up as a kid. And I know that's all that Jordan ever wanted. He got robbed of that father figure 24/7 in his life because of some choices that were made. And I hope one day they can rebuild that relationship. But right now that relationship is pretty broken and that kills me for Jordan. Does he have my husband as a stepfather? Yes. But that's not his dad. That isn't his dad. That's all boys want, especially at this age. They want their dad. That whole scene of just knowing like there are good men out there and you will cross paths with them one day.
That one got me. Yeah, absolutely. That was very well said. What would your younger self say to your children now, but like with the wisdom you have now of like, you are not a burden?
I don't know if I want to use the word burden. I definitely felt a certain type of way as a child because I gave my mom a run for her money. I certainly did. And we can joke about that now, her and I, but like when I looked back at it, I was like, the way that I acted, and I started acting out around that 12-year-old kind of age. And thankfully, my mom never let me think that I was a burden, but I felt like I was a burden from knowing how I was acting, like whether it was like in a school setting or how I acted in like a friend group. Like I felt, made myself feel that way. Nobody else did. Nobody ever made me feel like a burden in my family life. So I think that as a mom, I try really hard to never let my kids feel the way that I made myself feel. So it's like that reassurance that, and I catch myself too. Like I catch myself getting frustrated at times and that becomes vocal. And I'm like, stop projecting on your children. That's something that I had to work on. I had to work on the projection part. I'm like, just because you are frustrated does not mean you can take it out on your children. And we like to do that. We do it unintentionally because they're right there and they're easy to, and I hate to say this, I really do, but it's like kids are so forgiving. They're going to they're going to still love you no matter what. And I think that like subconsciously I know that. And it's like trying to catch yourself at times. Don't let them think that they're a burden to you. Don't let them think that like when mom's having a bad day that you're going to become the punching bag because you're sitting right next to them. So I try, but again, we're humans. We sometimes the self-control doesn't work out the way that we would like it to. And at the end of the day, you're like, could I have been a better mom? Yeah. Should I have talked to him in that tone? Nope. Could have talked to somebody else that way. It didn't have to be your kids. So that's something that and I'm probably going to be working on that for the rest of my life, if I'm being honest, even into adult age.
That's a level of accountability that not a lot of people are able to reach. But
Oh, yeah. It took a long time to get that accountability too, but it hits you at the end of the day. You're like, could have done that better. Even in, you can bring that into relationships. I could have been a better wife today. I didn't have to snap at him today. I didn't need to use that tone of voice with him. It goes into any relationship in your life.
what's one thing that you could say to people at the end of the day? Look yourself in the eyes in the mirror and ask yourself this question.
If you looked back in 30, 40, 50 years, would you be happy with how your life turned out? Because even now at 33 years old, I would question that for myself. What you're doing today, is it going to make you proud of yourself, proud of your life when you're older? Because the only thing that we're going to have when we're older is the memories of what our life looked like. Are you going to be happy with it? Are you going to be content laying on your deathbed? Yep. This is what I wanted. This is the life that I wanted to live. And I can go peacefully knowing that I did exactly that.
Yeah, that was really good. In which way did you learn how to take action in the opposite direction of the fears?
So I was very codependent my entire life. And I had to break that cycle. Like we can call that like the cord that we had to cut. I was very codependent. So I had to do that. That was like the action for me. I needed to remove myself from that mind space that like I can't do anything on my own. I need to be with this person at all times, or I'm going to feel like sick to my stomach. Or I think a lot of it too was like trust. So I felt like if I was with somebody all the time, they couldn't do anything to betray me because I would see it, which is so unhealthy. Because if you can't let your significant other out of your sight for a few minutes because you're afraid of what they're going to do, it's like looking back, it's that was so sick. That was so sick in the head. But that was definitely an action that I had to take and detach myself from that codependency mindset.
Talk about the pain of frenemies or what that taught you.
It's almost like those relationship endings hurt more than like a romantic relationship. That's a hard one. That's a hard one to digest because That's somebody that knows your deepest, darkest secrets. That's somebody that you confided in, that you thought we're gonna be friends and ride off into the sunset for our entire life. Way too much about me. We're not getting rid of each other. You're with me for the long run. So I'd argue that frenemies are 10 times worse than a crappy relationship, a crappy romantic relationship. Those are painful. There is one friendship that comes to mind from 20 or 21, and we're cordial to this day. But it's like, I could never be friends with you again. I could never sit in a room and catch up on life with you again. You hurt me. You did the last thing that I thought that you would do.
Imagine each thing that you went through gave you a puzzle piece and a puzzle piece and a puzzle piece. You had the option of how to arrange the puzzle pieces, right? How did you learn how to not just be victim of circumstances or here's the path that's here, so I might as well follow it? How did you learn to take control over that path and rewrite the narrative of your life?
That's literally what I had to do. I had to rewrite the narrative. I had to sit down with myself in my own thoughts and say, you have two choices here. You're going to sink or swim. What is it going to be? Which direction are you going to take? And sinking was not an option for me. I had somebody quite literally relying on me to not do it. And sometimes I wonder what my life would look like if I didn't get pregnant at 18 years old. Was this the best thing that happened for me? Like, in retrospect, did I stay afloat because I had somebody that was relying on me? So messing up those puzzle pieces was not an option for me. I literally had to figure it out. I needed to, or else we were both going to go down. And that was not an option for me.
What's one thing that you were unwilling to subconsciously pass along to your kids or bring into your relation?
Toxicity, because that's something that I just felt like followed me my entire life. Just toxic relationship after toxic relationship. It would kill me if my kids ever lived in those types of relationships. And I often think to myself, like, what should I have told myself that I would tell my kids if they found themselves in that relationship? And toxicity is almost what took me out. Quite literally what almost took me out. Your body keeps count of that. And I could feel it. I felt it in me for years. And that's just not something that, if it's up to me, that's not something that they will ever experience, ever feel, ever go through, because I'm hoping to set that example of what love should look like and what love should not look like, and what you're going to walk away from and what you're going to hold on and work out for your life.
So let's take that literal. What is something that current you would say to the you back then, right before and right after all the towers in your life fell?
So right before the towers fell, I would shake myself and be like, let's go. Let's pack our bags. Let's get the hell out of here and don't even look back. Keep it moving. I wanted somebody to shake me, but again, I wasn't allowing anybody to shake me. I needed to make this decision for myself. I knew that was the only way that I could leave if it was up to me. I never liked people telling me what to do. I still don't to this day. It needs to be on my terms. But now, like, after the towers fell at sea, life can be better than this. Life is better. It is. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And thankfully, I am somebody that it was greener for on the other side. But it's like back to vulnerability. Take that chance. Bet on yourself.
Right? Absolutely. The ghost of potential, haunted by who you could have been. You weren't willing to wonder who you could have been.
Nope. I was absolutely not. I was so afraid.
Let's do one final line. Let's start with Jordan. One final line to Jordan.
Just off the rip.
Off the rip.
Oh, you're going to make me emotional.
That's okay. I'm about to cry in the outro, so I owe you one.
If you're going to, then I am going to. To Jordan, it's don't ever doubt yourself. You need to love yourself in order to love other people properly. That was so big for me because I couldn't love people the way that they deserved to be loved. And that's something that I never want him to feel. I want him to be so confident in himself as a person. I never want him to doubt himself or let somebody else think that he should doubt himself. That is, that would kill me. That would destroy me if I knew that he ever felt that way. So that is something that I would embed into him until I'm blue in the face.
The baby.
I hope that not hope, I know that he started off in such a loving environment, two parents that are able to properly be there for him. He did get a step up from Jordan. He definitely got the better draw of the stick, so to say, with him coming into this world. It wasn't chaotic, but I hope that he is everything like his dad when he gets older. I hope that he portrays the same qualities as he does, because it's what quite literally made me fall in love with his dad. I hope that he has the confidence that I never did. Stop, you can't.
I know, right?
You just want your kids to be happy. Anybody, whether they had a rough start and a rough go around or not, you just want them to be happy. Your kids are your life. You are literally living and breathing for them. I don't know if you ever saw that Instagram reel where it's like they interview moms and they're like, would you ever kill for your kid? And they're like, no, I will literally go to war for any of them. So I just hope that it's life lessons, right? Like they're going to fall sometimes, but I just hope that they never feel unworthy.
Your husband.
So my husband, I know we're going to go a little off for a second. I did watch one of your previous episodes of somebody that you interviewed that was sober. Yes, I really enjoyed that interview. So my husband is also sober. And I think that his sobriety, he was sober like before we had met, but his sobriety, I think, is something that I admire so much, because a lot of traits in my past kind of surround like unhealthy relationships or divorce from my parents, like it surrounded alcohol use. Previous relationships and individuals that struggle with hard substances. So his sobriety is such a gift to myself and to both of our children. And he has been such a positive light in our lives because of that. I think I'm a better person because of him and his sobriety. And I think that is something that was such a different trait that I never had in my life. I never had somebody grounded and sober and spiritually in tune with himself. I've never had that. So having him as that person for me, somebody that I never had, has just been, it's been one of the greatest things that he could have ever given me, is that his gift of sobriety.
Almost like he's proof to you that people can change when they want to.
Yeah, you need to want it. And he wanted it bad enough. And nobody should be sober for anybody but themselves. You should always come first. I would be worried if he told me that the only reason he was sober was because of me or was because of the kids. He wants it for himself. So he puts that work in. We just get to reap benefits of that, of his sobriety. So I think it's one of the biggest things that I admire about him. And talking to you about it, I don't tell him that enough. I need to. Just going back to the kids, what would you say to your kids? We don't say that. We don't wake up every day and say that to them. At least not me. Should we? Yeah. Like this has been a very eye-opening conversation we don't tell our loved ones how we feel enough, and they need to hear it more.
That's so true. That's so true. What's one thing you would say to people who have a stigma about people who used to be in some kind of addiction, who are getting their lives back on track? What's one thing you would say to speak to the stigma or the attempt to break the stigma?
People can change. They are not stuck. That version that you either assume that they once were prior to finding themselves, or what the stories that maybe that you've heard about them when they were in active addiction, that's not them. Their parents didn't give birth to them and say, he's going to grow up to be a drug addict and that's going to be his life. No parent gives birth to their children thinking, wanting, hoping, or even assuming that's going to happen. So we have to put that negative talk surrounding that to the side. And I have worked in the substance use field for 8 years. So does my husband. That's actually how we met. We met at work back in 2020. But if I didn't give the benefit of the doubt, some of my closest friends, I wouldn't even have in my life because they are all on 5, 6, 7, 10 years of continuous sobriety. So if we are so close-minded to, oh my God, I can't believe that you used to live your life that way, you're probably missing out on some of the best people in your lifetime because some of the best people that I have in my life are sober.
And I can definitely loop Taylor, the one that you mentioned, in that category as well. People really do, when they want it bad enough, they will find a way. And it's not even like they're changing. They're just unbecoming what wasn't them. That was a survival mechanism.
Yeah, almost like cutting those cords. Like, I don't need opiates to feel good about myself. I don't need alcohol to have confidence in myself. I can be okay sitting with myself without substances. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, even if somebody is socially drinking because it's acceptable, it's the norm. It's okay to sit at a bar for 7 hours on a Saturday because it's legal, but you probably don't like yourself that much if you're drinking yourself into oblivion just to feel better and get through your day. You're no different than the guy that was doing opiates on the street a couple of years ago. You're no different.
It's just people numb in different ways, and then we judge each other for it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, I'm adding on one more question.
Okay.
What's one thing that working in that field has taught you that you could only have from the perspective of working alongside people who are dealing with active addiction?
I found a new sense of empathy that I did not know that I had in me. And empathy for in different ways. Empathy for the mom who is just pleading to help her family, or the 18-year-old kid that is literally begging for his life back. If I wasn't in this field, I hate to say it, but I probably would have been like, what do you mean you can't stop using drugs? Yes, you can. It's easy. Just stop doing it. So it's like having that empathy to know that this is not their choice. Their choice to continue to use, maybe because it's like fight or flight. If I don't do this, my body is physically going to be ill. But they didn't graduate from high school or graduate from college or leave their marriage to be like, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to blow up my entire life by doing this. And I think also, I wish people knew like the chemical imbalance that comes with it. Like they didn't want this. Their mind is telling them they want it. And it's hard to fight that voice in your head sometimes. But I just wish people had a better understanding, especially like the Narcan conversation. People are like, oh, why is it free? Why are we saying that he doesn't deserve to live? That's not his fault that Narcan's free. You guys got to bring your problems up with the pharmaceuticals because do I want to pay a boat ton of money for because Jordan has a peanut allergy. His EpiPens aren't free, but that's not my fault. That's not your fault. I can't explain it to you, but they're both life-saving devices. So if Narcan is the reason that my husband isn't dead right now, I'm not complaining about it.
Absolutely.
So it's hard. It's hard when you hear people that just have this terrible mindset about addiction. You just want to shake them. Read a couple of books. Sit with a family one day. Sit with an individual one day that's currently struggling, that doesn't have the insurance to get into treatment or doesn't have the willpower right now. So I just wish that people were more open-minded about it because I love an addict. I love a lot of addicts. And just because you've been sober for 5, 10, 15 years doesn't mean you're not an addict. You still are, but you are working on yourself to not go back down those roads.
Yeah. Framing it in that way, it's like people stop seeing them as human.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like you walk by somebody on the street and it's, oh, it's trash. It's nope. That's somebody's son. That is somebody's child right there. So like when you, and I guess it's a little different, like when you put it into a parent perspective too, because I just think Jordan's going to be a freshman in September. It's like, that's when stuff starts to happen and kids start to experiment. And as a parent, that's absolutely terrifying. And you just have to hope and pray that everything that you've taught them and everything that you've embedded into their head, they're going to listen to it and they're not going to go down that path. And as a parent, you just need to sit back and hold your breath because the way that the world is right now, it is scary and it's so easily accessible. Drugs were not accessible like this when we were younger. They weren't on every corner of the street. They weren't at every house party because these drugs are literally killing people now. You used to be able to get away with like party drugs and wake up the next day feeling like crap. But now, like, you might not wake up. So it's very hard having kids in this new generation.
Yeah, it is scary because you think about it and you're like, wait a minute, it really wasn't always this way. We're made to
No,
feel like it has so that we feel like
no,
it's normal, but it wasn't.
no, it was not. And people didn't get addicted the way that they do now. Like, you could do this socially on weekends and it would be nothing. It would be like, ah, that was fun. But now you are literally hooked and you can't get off that cycle.
Any closing words specifically, if possible, geared to, I don't know, maybe like the youth in general and don't take that path. Try to not take that path. It's not, however you want to spin that.
Yeah, it's your life is worth living. Your parents don't want to bury you. Your parents should not be burying you. You were put on this earth to live a fulfilling life and go in whatever direction you are supposed to go to, but it's not that direction. It's not that cycle of drug addiction or alcohol abuse. I just wish that this conversation was had more in even schools, because even in schools, I've asked Jordan, what do they like tell you? And I don't know, they like show us like pills and they tell us not to do them, but it's like, show videos of what it does to yourself, your family. I just wish it was talked about more. It's so taboo. It's such a taboo subject. And especially in the suburban areas, it's, oh, my kid would never. My kid came from such a loving family. He would never. Yes, he will. Yes, she will. If it's presented to her once, yes, she will. I don't care where you came from.
Maybe we'll have you on for a little Q&A type thing where people can get advice or info from you. I think that might be something people would like.
Yeah, I started talking to Jordan about drugs when he was probably like 8 years old, maybe 9, but I feel like it was probably 8. Like we've had that very open communication. And I think that's the other problem too, is that parents are like afraid to talk to their kids about that kind of stuff. Whereas I can relate on my own terms, like we used to underage, right? Like we did stuff with my parents back. And I wish if it wasn't such a taboo subject, like I wouldn't have felt like I was like hiding it. Because when I hid it, I did it like 10 times more because it's like that thrill. Like I'm doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing. Whereas I hope that if that ever happened one day with my kids where they were like, oh, I messed up and I did this. Can you help me? I want them to feel like it's this open door of, will I be upset with you? Yes. Am I going to shun you for it? No. So having those open conversations has always been so important to me with Jordan, just so he knows that it doesn't matter how bad you mess up. I am here. I'm in your corner and I am your number one fan. Do I joke and say, if you ever get arrested, don't call me? Absolutely. But I would hope that like if peer pressure ever took over and like he felt like he had to take something or experiment with something, that he would come to me and be like, I messed up. Because that's like where the buck stops. It's okay. I feel comfortable and safe with my mom. I know that if I tell her this, I'm not going to get punished for it. I'm going to get a talking to. I'm not going to get punished. Instead of that sneakiness. I was the poster child for being sneaky.
Yes, we were.
Like, I think now, and I'm like, oh my God, in 2 years, Jordan could be like running around town like we were in the car with that we barely knew and like showing up at house parties that we had no business of being at. Like, that is so terrifying to me. Yeah, I try my best and I've done what I could so far, and I hope that it just sets him up to where he needs to be.
I feel like your wisdom comes from a place of, I'm not trying to shame you or judge you. I'm trying to tell you, like, this is the best way, or it's not coming from a malice place at all. And I feel like people need that because in that era, it's always very judgy.
Yes, exactly.
Let me go into the outro. So Sarah has not heard the outro, just as no one hears the outro. She didn't come here to deliver a message. She came here to sit in the middle of it with us, to show what it looks like when someone doesn't just survive, but starts telling the truth about what it took. Sarah didn't read from the script. She spoke from a place most people keep hidden, the place where your voice starts to shake, but you say it anyway. The place where healing isn't a finish line, just a decision you make every day to keep going. She didn't give us a comeback story. She gave us a becoming story, one built in real time, through heartbreak, through hope, through years that asked more than they gave. And still she rose. He reminded us that strength isn't something you put on. It's something you uncover beneath the versions of you that had to perform, please, or stay silent just to survive. And for me, this wasn't just another guest. This was my best friend from high school, from my hometown, the one who knew me before the reckonings, before the reinventions. There's something holy about circling back to the people who saw you before you knew who you were. Because sometimes they're the mirror that shows you who you've become. Sarah didn't just tell us what she lived through. She showed us who she is now because of it. This wasn't about closure. It was about truth and the kind of power that doesn't need to be loud to be real. If you felt something rise in you today, a memory, a boundary, a version of yourself you're ready to reclaim, it's time to honor it. That's how we find each other. And that's how we find ourselves. Thank you again.
That was so good. Oh, God.
I knew I wasn't making it through it. Thank you, everyone else, for watching as well. Next week, we have my friend Amanda, who is a professional fighter. We're going to be going into mindset area. And then I am a couple weeks away from my interview as well. So stay tuned for that. Humans for Humanity, the Library of Souls is up. It has wisdom from the episodes. It has 10 and 20 card tarot spreads. It has a playlist by the guest and so much more. Give me about a week or two and Sarah's will be up as well. The application to be on Humans for Humanity is up. It is lengthy, so please take your time. It's on my STAN.STORE/The Reckoning Co. I do have the first season booked, so it's going to be a little time before I start going through them. Please just be patient. And that is it. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you again so much, Sarah. This was so helpful.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
And I will talk to you all soon.
Bye.
"40 days out from my embryo transfer, which is like wild. It's your mom. 14 days until I see you. 14 days until I see you. 12 more days until mommy's pregnant. 10 days. 8 days. 7 days until he's a big brother. 6 days. Day 1. 5 days till I'm pregnant. I just got home from an anniversary date with your dad. 4 days. 3 days. 2 more days. 1 more day. Who you share it with.
share it with? Who you share it with?
Oh my goodness, baby, you are big.
Yeah, now it's a moment and a moment who you share it with. I believe what the point is enjoying who you share it with.
Hi. Who's that handsome
Who
boy?
you share it with.
Who's the sweet boy?
Who you share it with.